Our next presenter is Stephen Simmons. Stephen was a research analyst at Tudor Investment Corporation, where he built and managed trading systems with tens of millions in assets under management. Later, he was CTO at AG Squared, Director of Technology at Ideal Lab, then American Towns. So with more than 30 years of success, he's a veteran in the worlds of quantitative finance and internet technology. Now the founder and CEO of WaveBasis and the platform's oldest active customer, Stephen is on a dedicated mission to advance the science of Elliott Wave analysis and serve the Elliott Wave community with the best tools possible. Welcome, Stephen.
Okay, hey guys, it's great to be here again. It's great that all of you guys showed up. And Jody, thank you for having me back again. It's always a pleasure. As Jody mentioned, I'm Stephen Simmons, the founder and CEO and creator of WaveBasis. I usually, let me move along here. These are the topics we're going to cover today. I'm going to talk about some grounding. I usually go on and on about the grounding. I'm going to go through that pretty quickly today because it's in a lot of the videos that we've uploaded already. I'll do a quick tour of WaveBasis for those of you who are not familiar with it. And then I'll talk about something that comes up from time to time on our support desk and something that seems pretty relevant right now, actually. And that is anticipating and trading extended wave 5. And this is one of the trickier aspects of Elliott Wave analysis, and it's pretty relevant right now, as we'll see as we look at some of the markets I'm going to present. We have several markets that appear to be finishing wave 4s and or starting up in wave 5s. So it's a good time to talk about that. And then I'll go through some charts with current wave counts and forecasts, and maybe I'll talk about some trades that I'm in or thinking about getting in. Okay, for the grounding, again, this is mostly for people who are newer to Elliott Wave analysis, but I'd like to remind everyone, and I think it's important to keep in mind what we're doing when we practice Elliott Wave analysis, and in the context of how markets work in general, because sometimes we can lose sight of that. And again, this is particularly relevant in recent days of what I'm about to say. So markets move based on human sentiment. The emotional state and sentiment of market participants makes the market go up or down. If there are enough people who think the market should go up, they put their money where their mouth is, and the market goes up. It really is that simple. So, you know, sometimes we're looking at all sorts of indicators, Ichimoku clouds and this and that thing, and we can get detached from what's actually happening on the ground. What we're doing is what markets are when we're looking at a chart. It's just a reflection of what people think about a particular market. And what's special and unique about Elliott Wave analysis is it is directly tied into that evolving sentiment process, which we've found, thanks to Ralph Nelson Elliott, tends to evolve in repeating cycles or patterns, what we call them waves. And at the bottom here, you see Elliott Wave analysis helps teach the skill to track and measure these patterns. And WaveBasis helps you identify the patterns, understand the relative probabilities of related to market movements within the patterns, and master and apply the skills of Elliott Wave analysis itself. So again, I think that's important stuff to really have internalized. Okay, next. Oh, go on. My computer is behind me. Okay. Yeah, let me get out of this. Anticipating and trading extended wave 5s. And we'll look at some markets in a second. Just as a general set of bullet point items to keep in mind, we're going to assess the general likelihood of a wave 5 extension. And as part of that, we are always going to ask the question, is wave 3 extended? And I'll go into each one of these in a little bit more detail in a minute. We're going to consider higher degree waves to look for confluence and see what we can learn by what's happening at the higher degree as we try to assess whether our current wave 5 is likely to extend. We're also going to look at key indicators, momentum, standard stuff. I should mention that I use very standard momentum indicators, RSI, MACD, as a complement to Elliott Wave analysis. Elliott channels is also part of my regular arsenal, personally. Beyond that, I don't really look at other indicators. And then these first 3 bullet points sort of address the preparation and anticipation of a wave 5 extension. Then once we've gained some sense of what is likely to happen, then we're going to be alert for a 3-wave pullback from the initial high probability target. Again, this will make more sense when we're looking at charts. And so to sort of get into the meat of this, we'll look at some examples in Nasdaq, Bitcoin, and silver. So let me out of this and go to some charts. Actually, first, let me do a quick tour of WaveBasis. Again, for those of you who are not familiar with it, this is the WaveBasis workspace. It doesn't look too much unlike other platforms. Your charting area, and over here we have gadgets that you can move around. The gadgets add functionality to your analysis to the Elliott Wave analysis. And I'll go through some of these. Is there alternate wave counts? When you run an automatic wave count, you are given several alternates to evaluate. And I've talked about how to do that evaluation in previous videos and webinars. Another gadget is the next subwaves gadget. I won't go into detail on any of these, but just to give you, again, newer folks a sense of what WaveBasis is about. The next subwaves gadget helps you, and most of the gadgets, the primary gadgets are intended to help you with going through the best practice steps of Elliott Wave analysis, including assessing wave counts for potential trading opportunities. And the next subwaves gadget is key for that. It's one of our most popular gadgets. Gives you a sense of what if you were to take a trade at a given point in a wave count, what your risk reward might be from there, what your target would be, what the risk from that point in time and price would be, and whether or not the wave has been confirmed. Also, every wave count, let's give one that has some active stuff in here. Window blocking. Every count and every automatic wave count includes a written description of how to interpret the wave count. Again, this is great for newer people who are and anybody who's still learning how to practice and apply Elliott Wave analysis. The platform includes a wave scanner that allows you to choose a list of symbols to scan, some time frame flexibility, various filters, what kinds of setups you're looking for. I'm looking to trade. I want to know when wave 2 is almost finished. I want to know when wave 3 has already been confirmed. This sort of thing. Not unlike other scanners that you may have seen. A chart manager, a wave guide, again, which is great for ongoing reference, but particularly great if you're newer to Elliott Wave analysis. Just helps you keep at the forefront of your mind what the patterns in general, the idealized patterns look like, and what the key rules and guidelines related to the pattern are. So this is WaveBasis. So let's talk, jumping back to our wave 5 extension. Before I do that, one of the sort of central, most useful bits of WaveBasis is something that I rely on heavily in my trading are the smart tools, particularly the smart support and resistance areas, which are these colored boxes you see on the chart. And you know, I always have to point out that these are not predictions. These are just probabilities of where we would tend to expect waves to occur, or turning points for waves to occur. So for example, if we look at the current Nasdaq chart, according to my count, once we had this wave 3 apparently in place, before this craziness that has been happening over the last couple of months started, we had based on these probabilities, that the highest probability place for this wave 4 to end would be in this area here, 2400, 500. And I don't know about anybody else, but the last couple of months have been dreadful if you've been trading in here anywhere, or in some of the other markets like Bitcoin. It's been a messy couple of months, as I said. Then once we had wave A and this big bounce happen, we can see that we would expect wave C to end up right down here in the same area, this 2500, 2400 area. And this is, for those of you who are, again, newer, this would be referred to in Elliott Wave terminology as confluence. And confluence is when you have projections for waves at multiple degrees that target the same area. This is again probabilities. So I am currently expecting, based on this wave count, that this correction will end down here. However, you can see that I've also drawn in. So that is these are the smart tools, really valuable. Even again, very often, well, not very often, very often, the smart support and resistance areas are excellent places to find turning points. But even when they're not, knowing where the highest probability area is for a wave turning point is always useful information. Probabilities are useful in any arena, particularly in trading, where it's ever so important. As I was saying, what you can see here, I've drawn in what appears to be a potential triangle formation here, and I haven't labeled it, but we would have an A, B, possible C, D, E before the rally. So we may not get down here. We'll have to see. So as you can see, this is my Nasdaq count, and you can see that we are apparently settling into a wave 4, or completing wave 4 as a triangle, about to head up in a wave 5. Now, so the question is, well, will this wave 5 extend higher? Or we're going to get a subdivided impulsive structure, or we're going to get a simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to finish this rally, to finish this trend from 2022. So the first question is, as I showed on the slide, how big has wave 3 been? Now, we asked that question because as Elliott and I guess later Prechter and Frost have noted, when a wave 3 has been extended, it's unlikely that wave 5 will also extend. It doesn't mean that it can't happen, but it's less likely that wave 5 will extend after a wave 3 has extended, because the crowd, the market participants, will be experiencing some exhaustion. In this case, we have wave 3 ended right about where we would have expected it to end. So this wasn't a particularly large wave 3. As you can see here, I have us going up in a diagonal. There are other ways to count this, but this is the way I've been counting it for quite a long time. So that leaves open the possibility that, hey, well, maybe wave 5 will extend here. We're going to expect it, based on the probabilities, to finish around 24,000. This is Nasdaq futures. That's one piece of in our assessment. But then we look up to the higher degree. This is our higher degree wave 5, also in progress. This is giving us a higher target of around 28,000. So we have a bit of ambiguity here, because we don't have confluence. We have the lower degree targeting here, and we have the higher degree targeting up here. Well, let's assess the likelihood of this target. If we look at this wave 3, it was a monster. It was a very high extended wave 3, almost to the 5618 Fibonacci extension. So that tells us that it's unlikely that we're going to, typically, probably speaking in terms of statistics only, it's unlikely that we're going to get up this far. Also, reflecting on our indicators, you see the Elliott channel, and this is along with the smart support and resistance levels. This is extremely useful for determining timing and amplitude of wave 5. So we can see that if we were to get up here, we're going to have to get way up out of this channel to get there. Whereas if we finish the move here, we're going to finish it right inside the channel. This is going to exert some pressure when we get up. And typically in wave 5, when you get this far up out of a channel on wave 5, there's a kind of a rubber band effect anyway. So in my observation, excuse me. So although there's some ambiguity here, based on the evidence, and actually let's go back to, let's take a look at the indicators, along with a channel that's giving us some information there about how high wave 5 is likely to get. We can also see we have some pretty serious divergence happening in RSI. And for those of you who aren't, may not be familiar with divergence, divergence is when markets are making new highs, but your momentum oscillators are not. So we can see here the market made a new high, and so did momentum. Then the market made another new high here, but neither RSI nor MACD did. And you could, the momentum is waning here, which typically lets us know that things are slowing down. And when you see this kind of junk, that's usually a good indicator that things are indeed slowing down. So on this chart, it seems unlikely that we're going to have a monster wave 5 come up off of this correction. Now, with that said, it's kind of considered a fool's errand to predict the top of the stock market. At any time, a mania could ensue, and this could go up indefinitely. So you have to have that caveat in there, because we're at the whim of the crowd at the end of the day. So if market participants decide they love stocks, this could indeed keep running. But based on this objective view, it doesn't seem likely. So that's one example. We'll do a couple more examples of that. But while we're talking about Nasdaq, I want to talk about QQQ, which is kind of interesting, because we have a slight disagreement with QQQ. So on the Nasdaq chart, we'd call this a flat. We've got an ABC for A, B, and then we're looking for 5 waves down for wave C of that flat. In the case of QQQ, and this was a bit of a curveball if you've been monitoring both of these markets and trading them, QQQ actually made a new high here, got up over the wave 3. And I personally don't like expanded or irregular patterns, but in this case, it seems best to call this an expanded flat with the same forecast as the Nasdaq futures. So looking for bottoming in here somewhere. Of course, this could fall apart, but seems most likely that it will bottom here and then rally. And actually, here, let me take away one of these channels just to look a little bit more closely at this. So you can see on this 5-wave move here, we can see the channel. I'm seeing questions come through. That's actually a good question. I'll see if I can find, I'll see if I can think of, somebody's asked, if we always focus on how WaveBasis applies to an upward trend, how can waves apply to a position in a downward trend? Is it the same? It's exactly the same. Up and down trends in the context of Elliott Wave analysis, the analysis is exactly the same. And everything else applies except in reverse. So in this case, we see the Elliott channel is giving us sort of an upper bound up here. Could be this dotted line here also, and maybe push it out a little further in time. And then at the higher degree, we see, and this is not always the case that you see channels that are in this kind of agreement. So at the lower degree here, the turquoise blue, we have sort of an upper bound of the channel in this area. Same thing at the higher degree, wave 5.
Stephen,
So
sorry to interrupt. Can you zoom in a little bit? Thanks.
Sorry. Does that help? Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm on a big screen, so yeah. Let me. If it's hard to see some of this stuff. So what this tells us is that we're going to tend to have some downward pressure as we get up into these channels. Wave 5s can and it happens. It's not uncommon for a wave 5 to escape the channel, but the Elliott channels are a good guideline, a fairly reliable guideline for where wave 5s will start to run into resistance. So can you see it better now, Jody?
Yes.
Okay.
Looks good.
Okay. That's Nasdaq QQQ, and this is, you don't see these all the time, and I tend not to trust them, but in this case, it's pretty clear expanded flat as far as I can tell. Looking for a wave C termination down just under 500 or so. But again, this is well, in this case, actually, I just realized this. It's hard to count this as a triangle in the same way that we are counting potentially a triangle here. So that tends to suggest this is going to keep dropping, just with as well as the futures. Okay, moving. Let's take a look at another example of potential wave 5 extension. Here we have silver. It's kind of messy, so let me clear it up so it's easier to see.
And also enlarge it, please.
Yeah. Okay, so this is going back to the end of 2022. We are apparently going up in a wave 3 that's starting in August of 2022. This is actually the same wave count that I've been showing for a couple of years now. It's on all the videos, and the wave count hasn't changed. It has just continued to evolve in line with expectations. So here we have apparently a wave 4 that has finished. Now this could end up being a flat as well. We have 3 down. This could be a wave B bounce, and then a drop, just like the Nasdaq. But for the time being, it seems, and we'll look at gold, and that also informs my perspective on silver, because they tend to move together. It appears that we're dropping in a wave 2 here, and we're going to go up to finish this wave 5. Now, in this case, we can see that wave 5 points way up here. This lower degree wave 5 is pointing to around 47, 48. That would imply we're going to get a subdivision here, and then a continued rally to get up to that wave 5. And again, we'll ask, well, how did wave 3 look? Is this reasonable that we're going to get a wave 5 that's that big? I'll also point out that historically, metals are somewhat famous for having extended wave 5s. So that's something also to keep in mind. So we asked the question, how big was wave 3? Well, wave 3, as we can see, came up just in the lower part of where we would tend to statistically have expected it to. So it was a reasonably weak wave 3. It's satisfying, but weak. So a weak wave 3 leaves plenty of crowd sentiment to give us a strong extended wave 5. Then we can also, again, look at the higher degree, the next highest degree, the orange degree, this orange, we're in this orange wave 3. That targets even higher. So in this case, and we seem to have gotten 5 waves up. Is it a leading diagonal? Yeah, it's a leading diagonal up. Seems to be, or could very well likely finish this wave 2 drop and then start up in a strong wave 5 that could terminate here. But these wave 3 targets tend to have a magnet on them. So it is quite reasonable to expect that we'll get silver up to $55 from here. So we'll see. Moving on to gold, which, as I said, is a very close cousin to silver. Metals, these metals anyway, tend to move with each other. Again, this goes up, we're counting up from the 2015 low, heading up in a wave 3. And if you've been watching gold has been extremely strong over the last year or two. Excuse me. I think we have some lower degree stuff in here, not so low. There. In this case, we're heading up in, again, another wave 5, lots of wave 5s we're seeing around here as part of this larger degree wave 3. So again, we ask the question, how likely is it that this wave 5 will extend to reach this upper higher degree target? We look at where was the wave 3. Well, the wave 3 was somewhat, this is where we would have typically expected the blue wave 3. It's too small, right? Let's get it bigger. We would have typically expected this blue wave 3 to end up around here, but it extended a little higher to meet, as we see, the wave 5 target for the lower degree wave 4 here. Again, you will see this over and over again, that these probabilities are great information. It's not perfect. Probability is not perfect, but it's great. The probabilities are always, objective probabilities are always useful in any arena. So we can see that gold is now heading up in this wave 5 with a lower degree target around 3,100, 3,200. I can see we're started up in a strong 3 at this smaller, lower degree. Wave 3 may be finished already. Maybe we can move that over here and start looking for wave 4, but maybe not. We could maybe dribble up a little higher before this wave 3 finishes. We're going to then expect a wave 4 drop to about there. And one of the other things that is sort of known about metals is that once they get going, they tend to have shallow corrections. So whereas the highest probability correct place for wave 4 to terminate here, it's not unreasonable to see a wave 4, for example, like this one, that only made it to the 236 retracement. So it's hard to jump on metals once they start going. Then we'll expect wave 5. Again, we have confluence here, that this wave 4, assuming wave 3 finishes somewhere in here, it could keep going. we'd have confluence around 3100, 3200 at 2 degrees, which still comes up a little short for our wave 3 at the higher degree, this one, which targets 3400. So it's not hard to envision that this wave 5 is going to extend a bit. It could even extend more, but it's going to continue to try to get up to that 3400 target. So bullish silver and gold for the time being anyway, because once we do finish this wave 3, we're going to get a drop for wave 4, of course. But again, metals are pretty famous, particularly gold, for running hard on wave 5. So we'll see where this wave 3 actually comes in. Okay, so we have, just to review quickly, we have with our Nasdaq wave 5, kind of seems unlikely that we're going to get an extended wave 5. Could happen, but objectively doesn't look like it will. In the case of silver, looks like we have plenty of room to run for an extended wave 5. Looks great there. And reflecting back, let's go back to that, reflecting on the PowerPoint. So once you've decided that, seems likely that we're going to get a wave 5 extension, what do you do? How do you get it? What you're going to be looking for, typically, actually, let me show actually, there's a little example of this. Typically, what you'll see using WaveBasis, let's go back to the Nasdaq chart. Typically, what will happen is that when you we're going to be expecting our typical wave 5 to finish here. If wave 5 is going to extend, typically what you'll see is a 5-wave move up. You'll see a 5-wave move up to that target. Make that a lower degree so it's a little easier to see. Up to our target. Then what we'll typically see, and this is again another great use for these smart support and resistance areas. If this wave 5 is going to extend, we're going to get, typically we'll get target, we'll drop in 3 waves and then rally for the extension. And this would be our subdivision for the extension. As I said, it doesn't seem likely that that's going to happen here in the Nasdaq, but it could. If it does, it will most likely look like that. So now let's take we looked at gold and silver. Let's look at Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin, there are 2 ways that I'm counting. You can count Bitcoin right now. One of them looks like this, where we sort of unwound this nested 3, 4, 5 combination here. We made a very minor new high here, which could be called the top of this very short wave 5. And now we're finishing the blue wave 4 and setting up for a wave 5. Like, as I said, as far as I can tell, there are lots of wave 4, 5 transitions happening these days. That's one way to count Bitcoin. The other way to count coin is like this, where we have essentially a different way of counting the 3, 4, 5s in this sort of messy area. And then similar to the QQQ chart, we have an expanded flat. So I'm looking for a bottom in here if it hasn't bottomed already today. And I'll say, like I said, I don't know about you guys, but the last couple of months has been a real drag trading. So I was happy to see this. It's like a breath of fresh air to see this drop to what I've been expecting to be support for quite some time. So as far as I can tell, we're about to head up in a wave 5. I think Zach mentioned he had an upper target of around 120, 125, something like that. That's not too unlike this. Typically we'd stop in here, but we make it up to as high as he is looking. But then let's ask the same question. How likely is it that this wave 5 will extend even higher? Well, we have another piece of information that we can look at in addition to the ones I listed on the PowerPoint. So back to our questions. How big was the wave 3? Well, let's see. Wave 3 was pretty big. Looks like we got up over the 300% extension. So a pretty short wave 5 is what you would tend to expect in a situation like this. But similar to metals, Bitcoin, cryptos and Bitcoin in particular, have had a historical habit of having extended wave 5s, sometimes regardless of how high wave 3 was. And in this case, 300% is a fairly large wave 3, but in crypto terms, it's not extremely large. We've seen much bigger wave 3s. So we can be a little on the fence about whether this is too big to expect a wave 5 extension. But let's look at IBIT. Let's go back to that. What we would tend to expect if we end up in the highest probability spot here. Let's look at our channel. Actually, the channel gives us a lot more room up here if we want to rally up to Zach's target. But this looks to be about a 35% move in Bitcoin. If we look at IBIT, we have essentially the same wave count, but a considerably higher target in terms of percentage move. This is about a 60% move. So it wouldn't, given this collection of information, again, letting the probabilities drive my thinking, your thinking, it is not unreasonable to expect that this wave 5 will get up out of this expected area. But as Zach mentioned at the end of his presentation, it doesn't look like it's going to go that far. And once it does, we're going to get a drop from there. Excuse me. Let's see. Is using time for Stephen mentioned a target for Nasdaq, I think 24,000, but it's using time fibs or time projection targets. I'm not using any time anything. I tend to focus on levels, and when it comes to timing, particularly with a wave 5, which is where I find the Elliott channels to be most useful. Let's go back to the Nasdaq chart. That 24,000 comes from this projection. So this wave 4 projects wave 5 to 24,000. Now that might happen, in 2 days, or it might take several months. But that's the price level that I would expect. And now to gauge some idea of timing, we can again look at the Elliott channel. That where if this is going to 2,400, well, that's about the timing we would tend to expect based on the channel. So what is that? It's a couple of months. So I've been watching this presumably or potentially topping scenario happening in Nasdaq for a while, as some of you may know, and it seems that we may be getting close. Could the wave 5 for BTC already be in? The question is, could the wave 5 for BTC already be in January, November to January? I don't think so. I would be happy to look at a wave count, but let's do that on our support desk. I don't think we're finished in Bitcoin or any cryptos really. I've seen lots of bottoms happening over the last couple of weeks in cryptos that we'll talk about ETH in a minute, Doge, OMG. There are a bunch of cryptos that, and you folks probably know that the wave counts can be extremely different from one crypto to the other, but they all, to one degree or another, tend to follow Bitcoin directionally, and that's because of the arbitrage and the cross currencies and stuff that happens. But so if you look at a chart, I have a big screen of about 12 cryptos on 30-minute charts, and it looks like 30 of the same chart. 12 of the same chart a lot of the time. So a lot of these cryptos are bottoming, as far as I can tell, in these days. For example, as far as I can tell, Ethereum bottomed a couple of weeks ago and is now finishing a wave 2, and we'll look at that in a minute. Actually, that's the next chart up. So let's look at Ethereum. I know this is a really kind of funky chart, to be honest. Look at it. Look at the daily first. Let's look at up from 2022. What I have here is us going up in a diagonal. It's an ugly chart, if you ask me. Deep wave 4, which you would tend to expect off of in a diagonal. And now we're heading up in, again, another wave 5. In this case, we've already confirmed a wave 5 because we're up over the top of wave 3, unless we're looking at another big ugly flat here. But for the time being, and we have a low that came within, I think, 10 cents or something of breaking it's just a crazy looking chart. But for the time being, I'm counting this move up from the August low, this wave 4 low, as wave A of wave 5. So what we would expect, what I would expect from here, is that wave B finished here. Now we're starting up to finish wave 5 somewhere up here, and that coincides with what I'm seeing in Bitcoin. And to look at this a little more closely, when that low got struck, I guess it's February 3rd, I think it was. When was that? Yeah, around February 3rd, when that low got struck. The question I had was, okay, that's a typical big spike for a bottom in cryptos. So I'm already thinking, well, we're gonna get a big wave 4 bounce and then dribble down and finish down here, or was that it? And can we start counting up? So I've been counting it both ways along the way, but it appears if we count up from this low, we can get 5 up from here. It's not the prettiest 5 up we've ever seen, and we would be expecting a wave 2 bottom to happen around here. We have it's not a 5-wave move down. It's definitely a 3-wave move down. So I'm counting this as finishing wave 2 around today, getting ready to head up to finish the rest of this wave 5. That's where I am on Ethereum. Before we jump into more questions, let's look at Apple. Apple is the long-term count is pretty messy, so we won't look at that. But we are I was looking several months, some time ago, looking at a top target of around 300 for Apple. Well, so every time Apple starts down, I start counting down, and from the 259.34 high back in December, we have what looks like pretty solid 5-wave move down. So I've been waiting for the bounce since then, It looks like we have that bounce. It's hard to count that as anything but 3 waves up. So I'm counting it as it can be counted as an A, B, C, or maybe something more dramatic on the downside is about to happen in Apple, and we're going to should be counting a 1, 2. But for the time being, I have Apple finishing this wave B sometime around now. Didn't finish it quite yet, because you see, since I started counting down again, we've gotten up a little higher. So the target for this wave, this particular wave 5, this wave 5 of B. Let's get these in. The wave 5 of B is up here in the 251 area. We've touched that. Doesn't look like we're going to get quite high enough, as high as the wave C target up in the 255 area. Would that make a new high? I'm not sure, but based primarily on this fairly strong 5-wave move down and a 3-wave move bounce, expecting a tumble in Apple, and that will have obvious implications to the broader market, as in my experience, Nasdaq in particular tends to follow Apple, for perhaps obvious reasons. So that's Apple. Tesla is kind of a problem child, and it always is. We have what's happening here is initially it was thinking, now Tesla has a history, I should say, of overshooting targets. So that didn't happen there, but very often, you can see I'm trying to find a place where the probabilities didn't work that well. Here's one. So here's where we were expecting Tesla to drop for a wave 2 and finish in this area. It actually dropped deeper to this 8.6. So the point I'm making is that this is a tricky count, and it looks like Tesla is going into the hole, but based on the larger time frame count and the higher degrees, I'm expecting that this is going to continue to rally. So because we have at this point confirmed that we're in a larger degree, wave 3 up. Now, how it's up there it remains to be seen, but still for the time being, still bullish Tesla. Let's see where we are at this moment. Clear that so you can see. We count. We're looking at a 1-day chart. Yeah, that's so WaveBasis likes this as a very deep wave 3. We may be seeing some sort of diagonal thing happening here. We'll see. Let's see. I have some questions here. Bitcoin has been 10 plus more every 4 years. What is, I don't understand that question. What 10 plus more every 4 years? I don't know what that means. Sorry. Regarding Nasdaq, curious what wave count do you have the 2021 as? In the year 2021? Well, we can go back and look at, I have the Nasdaq composite count, which goes back to 1971. So in 2021, I had us going up in a wave 5 to finish higher degree wave 3. Again, we hit the target. We hit the target for the wave drop, and in the Nasdaq composite looks pretty much like the futures. We have a lower degree target of around 22,000, and a higher degree target up higher. And in this case, we're already up out of the channel for that higher degree. So if you can tell that I'm not bullish stocks. Let's see, any other questions? Maria, do we have any questions back there? No other questions? Let me see if there's anything else. Amazon, what do I have here? Ah, yeah, this is an interesting one. Well, Amazon, again, speaking of Wave 5 targets, as far as I can tell, exceeded the Wave 5 target at this lower degree here. And that, according to this wave count, finishes a larger degree Wave 3. So we should be targeting, according to this count, the 140, 150 area for Amazon, which again will have implications for the broader stock market. Now, and just we can look at this a little bit more closely. Do we have 3 down forming, 5 down forming? What does it look like on the drop? Well, it's a pretty clear. We have 1, 2, 3 hit where we would expect it, and there's an extended Wave 5. That's what they tend to look like. And actually, here's a great example. And actually, there's another example in the lower time frame Nasdaq also. Here we have Wave 4. We were expecting the Wave 4 to finish around here. That didn't happen. We got almost to that target, pulled back, as I described earlier, with a subdivision, then continued to extend this Wave 5 way down to the 200% extension. And this hopefully helps with the question of, does this work the same way in uptrends and downtrends? This is it's a 1 hour chart, but we have a small downtrend happening here. So it works exactly the same way. And we have our targets. Probably where would we have expected that Wave 4 to be? Right there. Where would we have expected that Wave 3 to be? Right there. I mentioned the smaller time frame Nasdaq. This was actually a good example of an extended wave as well. So here, if we're counting down from when Nasdaq started dropping a couple days ago, the 18th, was it? Yeah, the 18th. We have 1, 2. Clear this up a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we would have expected Wave 5 typically to end right there. What happened? We got 5 down into that area, a 3-wave bounce, and then an extension. And as far as I can tell, this is going to keep extending down into the support area. So what I would be on this 5-minute chart, which for something can change quickly, tend to be expecting that we're just finishing that Wave 4, and then this Wave 4 is going to extend its way down to the targets that is shown on the down in here. So as far as I can tell, that's what we're looking at. Did I hear correctly that you're not bullish on stocks? Yes, you did. I'm bullish. Well, let me qualify that. It looks like we're going to be finishing a correction soon. And so in the intermediate term, I would be bullish, but not for long. And it's not, I don't tend to trade things that look like this. I'm not going to get mixed up in here because you could easily truncate. So if it pulls back, if it does this, if I see 5 up and a pullback, I'll be looking for that 3-wave pullback in case it looks like it's going to extend. But if it doesn't, if the structure doesn't do this, then I won't be bullish at all at that point. Yeah. Any other questions, Maria? All right, so I guess I'll just jump to the offer, which I always forget to do. Thank you guys for coming. I should mention, I should have maybe said this at the top. WaveBasis allows you to try it out for 14 days, free trial, no credit card required for the free trial. And for everybody who came today, you can use this coupon code. You feel free to take your free trial, and then after your trial, you can use the coupon code to get a 20% discount for your first 12 months. Also, anybody who is already a subscriber and wants to, if you want to upgrade your plan, if you're on the casual trader, the trader plan, and you want to upgrade to a higher tier plan, I recommend it, especially if you're on the casual trader plan. This is a great opportunity to get up to the trader plan and get some of the more advanced tools at a discount. So thank you everybody for coming. Thanks for being part of this community, and we look forward to answering your support questions. As I always mention, we love to get questions. Send us your charts. We are happy to give you feedback and guidance as you learn how to use the platform and become Elliott Wave experts. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Stephen. That was great. And Stephen's offer can also be found on elliottwavehub.com/forecasting event. Thank you, as always. Very good.